how they do things. The bone stays red, and then when it goes to yellow, and in some cases and in positions we find darker colors of it, darker different colors of yellow and a brighter color of yellow. One of the first things that, as was mentioned earlier, is that we produce 500 billion blood cells a day. If the production of red blood cells was random, then why do we produce so much random blood cells? And then why do we produce B cells and then conversion of them to T cells and the rest? Why bone marrow could not be producing one thing at a time or one entity and then just feed it through and then they convert as they come to the body? The red blood cells, so many billions of them are produced. They all have predestined information taxi destination, as I always say. So they're not all the same. You have so many different cells across the body of the man that they have continuously needed to be supplied on a continuous basis, and this is why you need so many red blood cells. You cannot deliver energy, let's say, to the nail of the toe or just the nerve under it where the nail is produced and come back next week and feed it again. So every single blood cell which is produced, even though it looks the same, but it's got its destination written on it. Where it's going to go, what it's going to do, how much energy it's going to carry. In conjunction with the blood, then, as it was explained, how the bone marrow goes to the T cells to become B cells, goes to thymus. Red blood cells move into the bloodstream. As we said before, the energy of the red blood cells in conjunction with the nerve system decides what the material is going to be. When the red blood cells arrive at the heart, the other part of the information arrives through thymus. Look at the position of the thymus, look at the position of the heart. As I said, 20% of the information is neuro, 80% is through gravitational magnetic field. The car arrives, and at the point of the thymus, the destination and the number of passengers are decided according to the magnetic field which is come. Don't forget that the immune system which is coming from the bone marrow to thymus is coming from the same place where the red blood cell came. So they are in tuned. They are of the same gravitational magnetic field, the strength, common denominator. So the immune system in thymus, when the blood arrives to the heart, it gets its passengers and destination coded in. The other part with the immune system is when the immune system the cells for the immune system are released, when they reach the point, If it does not match in what the code was given, then there is a problem. Then there is an infection. Then there is a need for density change. In a way, the immune system which runs around the lymph system and within the body of the man has to match when the passenger arrives at the destination. And then it decides what has to be delivered. Interesting. Even though we look at the bone marrow and we look at the bone itself as a white stuff, look at the color of the bone, look at the color of the brain of the man. Not very far off, but the same colors, near enough. Because the bone itself as a structure is controlled and stated is a state of, and what colors and shapes is going to be and what cavity is going to produce by the brain itself. So now you can bring whole integrated system together. Brain decides the cavities, the nano layers within the bone for what it needs for the support of the red blood cell. It produces the red blood cell and then it controls it that it goes to the right place. Not for the cell, but for its neurosystem. So the circuit is completed in one direction. The brain decides the structure of the bone. Then it decides what it manufactures inside the bone for its survival, which is the lung and transfer of energy from the lung to the brain through the operation of the heart. And at the same time decides in how I'm going to feed the neurosystem directly myself in a way that I'm aware of what the guy is doing in the physical part, that I don't leave everything in his hand. So, in the plasma science, in the world of plasma, we have seen we do not work through electron and electrical and mechanical system. Electrical information transfer, even through neurosystem, belongs to the physical part, not to the neurosystem control and for emotion to be in charge of what the guys are doing. In a way, the brain has a spy within the system to keep an eye what the physical guy is doing. It doesn't put me in danger. If this is a bit to understand in more depth, if you go back to the workshop of yesterday, I explained to you that the detector had a cap on it and it was positioned in a direction that when the field come in a certain direction, certain strength, they hit the cap, they change the energy and we detect it as a noise. This is the same principle. This is the same process. This is why I discussed the detector yesterday for today, for you to understand, because you understand the practical part of the reactor. Now you can understand the work of it in the body of the man. So when the brain sends information, at the point where the blood cells and the nerve system in plasmatic magnetic field strength are in a given angle, it changes to the noise. That noise become, in a way, changes to the matter. And now for the first time you can understand how every part of your body is decided by the brain and the production of the bone marrow. The information,
We're
the
ready
taxi
to begin
destination
the
comes through the
34.
blood. Brain gets the information, decoded it, put the information back what it needs to do, and sends it like a radio, what do you call it, beacon. At the same time, when the information through the beacon comes, at a point wherever it needs to be, the information in the blood, with in conjunction with the information with the neurosystem, converts into the matter at the point of the change of the length, strength, which is being put through by the physical part or the emotional part of the brain. This is the conversion of the plasma into matter. In the lab, we see it, conversion of the plasma into noise. In here, we see it in this level. This is very interesting if you want to understand it more. As a lot of you have been listening to the broadcast live stream in the lab, us as knowledge seekers spend a lot of time in the lab. We've been there for nearly 6 months. Sometimes we hear when the pump goes. But a lot of you have been registering on the SSI workshop lab. I hear the bang, another bang. This is the same process as your working of your body. What happens is that the reactors create gravitational magnetical field. And when the gravitational magnetical field come in touch with each other, and they, because it's rapid growing and contraction, you hear the slapping or what you hear as a bang. Now you can understand the banging which was going on in the lab for past few nights or past few weeks. As you know, the lab has been open before, we never heard the bangs. The banging system has come since we start running the GANS matters, because it's a GANS same as the brain, and it releases magnetic gravitational field in the same strength matter. And then when it interacts with the magnetic gravitational field of the reactors themselves, this is the time you hear a bang, and you usually hear double bang or triple bang. Because the plasma hits the three at the bottom at the same time, the free plasma, and the plasma on the top, because they are near enough the same strength. So, energy of the gravitational magnetic field converts into a noise. Or you convert it into a matter if you know how to do it. And this is how matter energy converts back to matter in every single part of the body of the man. The information according to the emotional part and the physical part are released. And then where they match with the blood carrying information for the neurosystem and the information which is on the matter strength length in the nerve system, tells what material is needed in this position. And then you have the skin, which transfers that information into the right material. It's like a filtering. So now you see how the operation of the brain, the bone, the red blood cells, the defense technology which is there, and at the same time the blood circulation come together to work. This is what I've been saying for a long time. 20% of the information is carried in the neurosystem. That 20% is information for the nerve in a channel which goes down, for the conversion of the material in the position where it's supposed to be done and how it's done. These are the bangs. But in fact, you don't hear all the bangs in your body because it's done in a smooth way and it's just done as a normal way. It's a noise which we become used to, we don't hear it. So the ear has, in a way, has blocked it. It's a noise that we are used to, it's not considered a noise. So in your body is a continuous, a lot of bangs going on every minute, billions of them as the cells convert. From plasmatic condition in the blood, in conjunction with the lymph, in conjunction with the neurosystem. What is coming with the lymph is converting into the matter. So the tuning part is literally arrives with the presence of the lymph. And in so many ways, the lymphs are themselves as part of the process of production of the red blood cells and immune system, the bone marrow. Don't forget two main factors. If you go back to when we talked about the bone and the bone marrow, all the immune systems, all the lymphocytes, anything which comes out of the bone marrow carries a potassium, a calcium, sorry. Because it's washed in. Then that information which is carried as a calcium plays an important part in production of the tissue muscles. Because what has happened, or what happens, is that if another part of the body mistakes or make a change in the phosphor which is in the bone marrow which comes up, then you'll find a deposition of the calcium within the fibers of the tissue of the body of the man in the muscles. This is a very complicated situation. When we come to the parathyroid glands and glands, as I've spoken before, I explain more. But now you see, in reality, the body, the brain, the emotional part can live in a very simple way with the operation of the heart and the bone. The rest is conversion. How what you eat as matter with the energy which goes to the limbs converts and releases energy for what the brain, the heart, the neurosystem and the bone have decided to produce. At the same time, because it's the brain which produces the structure, controls the structure of the bone, it keeps it as a memory and it puts it in your DNA, what you call your DNA. Your DNA is produced in your bone marrow. The coding, the physical part of it is done in the bone marrow, and then at the same time the information is received to put it in a structure by the emotional part and the physical part of the brain. Then, now you understand how, in a very simple way, you can follow somebody's DNA and say if one matches or not. Or one is from the same mother, or there is a connection, or we can use the bone marrow or not. Because in fact, the bone marrow, when you use in the bone marrow transplant, is partially change and definition of the DNA. If the information on RNA is similar, the physical part matches, because physical part follows the master, which is the emotional part which sits in the RNA. In the future, as we go deeper, I'll explain to you that at the moment, the doctors will have a major breakthrough in their hand if they understand they don't need to look for bone marrow everywhere to find one. If husband and wife are emotionally close, very close as one, even they come from different part of the world, the bone marrow will match. They can receive organs from each other. So in the future, scientists and the medical people, if you can make one to be close, not to be in love, understand emotionally close, what you call bone marrow. Because again, the human beings are looking for the physical part. They don't understand the physical part is controlled through the emotional part. And when the RNA repositions itself in the right way, if you can do it, then you find out you have the same as a certain blood types that you can give to anyone. You can do the same with stem cells. You can do the same with the bone marrow. So there is no need for a loss of life just because they cannot find matching organ. The organs of anybody will match if you can match the RNA part or allow the RNA part to adjust itself that it connects the DNA, and then any blood cell matches. Any organ will match. So it's not just running and looking at the bone and the heart. It's understanding, as I explained in the part with the heart, why the heart has 4 chambers. One chamber is responsible for circulation of the blood to go out, one to bring it back, one is for the limbs, and one is for the immune system. And if in any part, any of these don't function properly, then you see the diseases. If the doctors start looking people with a cancer into the rhythm of their hearts and the valves and the heart's operation, and even condition of the heart in respect to thymus, then you find out cancers become a memory of the past. It needs a deep understanding. It needs to understand the operation, why is bone, because we always look at the bone as a piece which, that's it, is left over at the end. But in fact, the bone is beginning of the life, the structure, the operation, and the control of the whole human race, human body, or any animal on this planet. A bone is as important as the brain itself because it's part of the brain, is planned, designed, executed by the brain, emotional, in conjunction with the physical part. If the physicians understand, then they come to one point, that there is no need for a physical part to feed. I explained this yesterday to the knowledge seekers. If you understood that no food crosses, no element crosses your lung and no element crosses your intestine, I can give you the energy and change the plasmatic. When we talk about energy, we're talking gravitational magnetic field. I can give you a gravitational magnetic plasma, twist it slightly in a different orientation or a speed or the strength. Would you like to feel as you're having a banana? Even taste and smell the banana. But in fact, there is no need for the mouth to open to digest the food. This is one of the points when years ago we put on the Keshe Foundation SSI that we will not be carrying any food into space. Because if At that time, we would have explained this, people would have laughed their head off. But now that you've developed the knowledge and you understand more and more, and you've seen the work of the GANs and the plasma, which is a free plasma, then you understand how easy this shall be. Then raises one big question mark. Is there a need for physical part now that you can feed that way? Then that goes into the ethics. The man has to decide. Would you like to carry this feeble body into space, which is conditioned to positions, or would you like to carry a part which can adapt itself according to the environment it lands in and likes to live in? Don't forget the condition of the shoe crab. So, in so many ways, when you look at the operation of a heart, its position in respect to lung, its position in respect to thymus, should have given you a very good indication that the bone is part of the brain structure and is part of the emotional part of the brain, because it decides, I have to be in charge, and the only thing is I need food, and now I've given the instruction to the body. When I finish, the body can do what it likes, but I support it. Because red blood cells go deliver their energy mainly in the operation just for the nerve system and for the brain. So in a very simple way, again we open another door in the world of science. And the ones who understand, listen to these tapes in the future, these talks, then they understand the depth of what I've just explained. We have just touched the surface of the knowledge. If you look at the structure, for example, of the bone, and if the doctors by habit take a scan of a bone at the time of birth, or a scan of the cavities of the nano layers and literally detail map it, they'll find out that how different diseases come by change of the structure in the nano layers or the layers internally in the bone. And if you can restructure it, you can produce the same material all the time. So, in a long term, man should never die in the physical matter as we've seen it. Most of the diseases will be eradicated because you can change, or you can allow the bone to be reset or reproduce it in conjunction, or allow a change in the environment of the blood cell when it comes out to be at its constant condition. So a man can live for thousands of years because you adjust everything through the upper structure, as Elia keeps on talking about the spongy. The life of the man depends on the spongy part. The spongy part is the cavities of different magnetic gravitational field strength, which decides what is filtered and what energy will be carried by the red blood cells and by the limbs and by everything else. Because, do not forget, the limbs themselves have their origin sitting in the bone. Next time, when you're sitting on a table and you finish with a cooked bone of a chicken or a lamb, look into the structure, and then you understand the mystery of the creation. What you dismissed as a piece of bone and few holes in it, That's the essence control mechanism of the creation, life of the man on this planet or anywhere else. You've seen it. If you squeeze your nano layer, it releases energy. Now, this spongy, it keeps on getting the heartbeat. It keeps on getting contracted and expanded. So it's releasing its energy. And that energy decides how much goes into what when it leaves the bone and what it becomes. The spongy part of the bone is the fundamental connection control system of the whole human life. And it's so easily dismissed because just look at this, just some pieces of bone happen to be there. Every shape, every size, every dimension is controlled, planned, designed, executed by the brain itself. Nothing is coincidental. Otherwise, why don't you have 4 horns and 20 legs? It's accidental, it can happen. Even if you look at one end of the bone, a spongy part, and the other, you will understand different materials are needed in different parts. So all cannot be done in one place. Then you understand why your ribs have a spongy strength structure. These bones on your ribs act and behave very much like the detector which we had in the lab. They show the limitation of the magnetic gravitational field which comes from the physical and emotional part of the brain, what it has to be done in that cavity. Why do you have a bigger bones on the top and a very smaller as you go down? And it doesn't stop, it carries on all the way over your stomach. Partially is for protection, but in reality, the backbone can hold. Because all these bones, the shape, the color, the material they put in their environment and the field which they absorb coming in the magnetic gravitational field from the physical emotional part decides a lot of things. A lot of people look, for example, in the prostate cancer or in the womb cancer into what happened. But look why prostate cancer always goes directly into the hip. Because part of the information received by the bone for the conversion and operation of the prostate is misplaced through the emotion. It's not the way all as has been taught. It's most of the time is the other way around. You change through emotion the field which you send, and you have a satellite dish called your hip bone. It's emotion. So it creates a different environment in that core, in that center, and affects that emotion, affects continuously the prostate or the womb or the ovaries. So the bone structure is not just for manufacture, at the same time the bone structure is for reflection of what is made itself to be back on it through the emotional part. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. Is there any questions from people in the Skype call? I'll have a look at the live stream.
Yeah, I have a question. What about the vertebrae bones in the back? What are those? What are they producing energy for the body?
What do you think is going through them?
Lymph.
What else?
I guess neural information.
I think you answered yourself.
Okay. I have one more question about telomeres. When the child's in the mother, it has a whole line of them, and then it drastically reduces after birth, and then it continuously reduces. Why does it reduce so much from inside the mother and directly after birth?
Repeat the question.
The telomeres, the lengths of them, they shorten as we get older. When the baby's inside the mother, they're really long, and then after the baby's born, the child loses a huge. They shorten drastically, and then they slowly shorten over the rest of your life. So why are they shortened so much from the birthing process?
This is the condition we have accepted to be in that. It's an environmental condition because we adjust ourselves to. It's very much like, as I explained some times ago, why do we or did we have dinosaurs and we can't sustain dinosaur life? This atmosphere at the moment cannot support life of a dinosaur. It's the pressures and gravitational magnetic fields of the both earthly and outside which decide. Don't forget, we look at ourselves as we are, but we got to realize that the human body foresees what it needs to change into to fit into what it comes. Because it's not just that we are walking on this planet. Continuously our emotional and physical part is receiving information from this planet too. From its central core, as the gravitational magnetic field changes, strengthens, and from its environment outside it, from the environment of the plasma of the solar system. There are changes which explain to us there is a lot of changes in human race continuously. There is even, in the coming time I'll show you something in the human structure. Even in the human structure, if you look at some of the MRIs, you realize some of us as human being, or a structure of human being, we are getting ready to get rid of certain parts of our body as we know the time has come to leave this planet. I look at a lot of MRIs of the brain and the bones with different diseases, and I see it, it's very clear. So a lot of things will change and shorten is because of what the body is expecting to be. In a lot of structures, because I have so many data I look at, it shows that man is getting ready to live on the cave, go become a caveman again. If the earth condition stays as it is. We were walking with Arwen a couple of days ago in the park. And there were, as you all know, there were a heap of soil near the footpath. And a few months ago, 2-3 months ago, the same heap were right on the top of the path, which is on top of the hill. I asked him, do you know what this is, what it is? We had one of the wettest weathers, environments in Italy this year. So the mole knew it's going to get drowned, so he went right on top of the hill, on top of the ramp, to make sure if the water comes, I'll survive. Firstly, the moisture, they understand. Secondly, they'll be able to move. And now it's come to the bottom of the hill. It means it's going to be a very cold and dry winter. because in this environment he can live. At the moment, his internal system tells him he has to be at the bottom to have the soft ground to be able to dig to find the worms. Our body is the same. It receives the information from the earth and from its environment of what is there. And some of us, we respond to it. Some of the bone structures are changing when you look at the MRIs. This is one of the things you got to understand. Life does not stay. Evolution didn't happen and you are here and it's going to change. We are still ourselves evolving into the environment which is getting ready, and our, in a way, brain plasmatic condition is absorbing what the changes are, so it's preparing us for the change. And secondly, for the changes which is forced on it, it has to accept. So as you see the bone changing or extending, and some people becoming very tall and others short, or we find different conditions where we could not accept certain kind of food, now we can eat it, is all because we are part of the evolution. Evolution hasn't changed to come to us. And evolution comes according to what the environment dictates on the bone, and then it dictates on the brain, emotional and physical part. The whole human race, if you look, I can show it to you in MRI, is getting ready for a huge disaster. It's in the brain, you see it in the structure. The emotional part is packing in a different shape and formality. Very much like when you look at the MRI of a MS patient and a ALS patient and somebody who has a normal body but a cancer with different brain structure. The human body, our emotional part, is aware of what's happening above us, around us, and is getting ready for it. I look at something like maybe 200-300 MRIs a year from different diseases. And then you analyze it. I look at MRI from the bones. And then you start analyzing, you start seeing. If you look at the MRIs from 10 years ago, and look at the MRIs from now, some people bring it for you. Oh, I had some X-ray taken, or I have an MRI with me today. And then you look at the structure, you see the depression which is setting in. So our body will change for it.
Mr. Kesh, there is a question in the live stream that might be associated with this. There's a, let me just get it lined up again here. So is there a connection or similarity between the process of creation of cancer cells and the creation of black holes?
I don't think so. The cancer cells, maybe it sounds cancer to us. It means our body is not used to this conversion. If you understood the way I explained the matters are created, there is a difference between a cancer and a tumor. And I explained that before. A cancer and small cancers and cancer tumors which they grow afterwards. But you find people who have tumors and they get the radiotherapy, they get the chemotherapy, and then they remove the tumor, and then there is nothing else left, and say you're perfect, there is no cancer anymore. These are done because of the changes within the body through the foreign parts, or changes by accident in one part. But cancer as a whole in the human race is a production of the material which the body is not used to how to handle. And then nobody dies of cancer. No one has ever died of cancer. You die because these what you call cancer, because of their stronger field, absorb all the energy. So in fact, you die of lack of energy. Because whatever you use, whatever you eat, needs to feed these hungry beasts. And it goes back to a question which we had last week regarding can we do this and that, and I explained why and how it's done, and how cancer grows, and how cancer is fed. It's just our body is not there. If you can make a machine that can feed the cancers on their own, you'll find that you can live with the lumps and the cancers and the rest of the body the same. But because they are gravitationally, their gravitational field is stronger than magnetical field, so they absorb, they take all the energy which comes in. Then it comes the physical tiredness, exhaustion, nothing, having energy to do things, and then that leads to death. Because the cancer cell takes everything. Even when you take it out, because it's a spread itself, there are now millions of them everywhere. So they all absorb all the energy which is supposed to go for other functions, be it through the lymph system, be it through the, what do you call it, plasmatic from the brain, or from the physical part of the brain, or emotional part. So they become a, what do you call it, a living, eating giant. But spread around many of them. Nobody ever dies of cancer. You die of the lack of energy which is not there to support it. And that's why you find the cancer lumps, cancer pieces grow very rapidly, and you take it out from one place and they come out somewhere else, because now you took one out. But because it's spread now, the other one start eating, because now it's found it's no competition. Nothing to do with black holes. Black holes doesn't exist. The man who has talked about the black holes cannot speak to talk about how much rubbish it is. The darkness of material, it means the absorber, or the energy which we cannot see at our length, as our human race. Amino acid, gravitational magnetic field length. In fact, if you think about it, black should mean the essence of creation. That's where all the energy comes out of. Next question.
I have a question in the live stream here. Stanley asks, so man can expect to change on deep sea space travel? All Earth conditions cannot be set in a spaceship. Is that correct? Like you've talked about 1G gravitational field could be set.
Yes, but this is something we were talking with the knowledge seekers yesterday. In space, do you need 1G? And secondly, according to what you create in the central core, you can create different Gs and different colors in different part of the spaceship. So, in so many ways, you can live a composite life according to what you need. And we get used to it very rapidly, very easily. So you don't need 1G to be 1G all the time, because we think the 1G is the only way we can live. But at the same time, your gravitational magnetic field, according to the strength they release, or due to the condition of running of the cores, you will find out there are different colors within the structure, and each one carries its own gravitational magnetic field strength.
That would go for the sun's rays as well. That was another part of the question.
In so many ways, yeah. That's why, as I said, we were talking about it yesterday, because I took the knowledge seekers to stand on the edge of the, more or less, what we call a small hill, and I said, if you look, it's the same sun. In the evening, you see it in the red color. And during the day is bright white light. And then if it's the other way around, in the mornings you wake up to, in the winter time, into the red color. And that's, as I explained to them in English, if you have English lessons, they know, they say red skies at night and red skies in the morning. If you have a red skies at night, it means tomorrow is going to be a nice warm day. But if you have a red sky, it's the same sun, in the morning, it means it's going to be very freezing and cold.
Red sky at night, sailor's delight. Red sky in morning, sailor take warning.
Yeah, now you understand. It's the same sun. We all come from understanding of the same culture.
So we can also see, though, as the reactor systems in a spacecraft as being like our own confined solar system, and we can dictate what that solar system entails in terms of what we need, like our sun. So the question, it says, can we expect to change in deep space travel?
Of course.
Well, that's only if we want to change. That's the way I see it. Yeah, if we want.
Of course. There is a huge change. There's a huge change coming about the Keshe Foundation research. It's going to shock a lot of people. Armand and Marco have started working on it. I've asked them to keep silent till we decide we release it. There is going to be such a huge, shocking change that will answer this question to you very soon. It's strange that you people and the questions and the line of thinking is all flowing in the same direction. It's very much, I'll say, it's the lesbian relationship. You know what it is. You know, yeah, you laugh. You know this, I mean, a lot of women can tell you, a lot of men are shy about it, but when you work in the medical health side like me and look at everything else, you know, the lesbians, when they are together for such a long, they have their monthly cycles at the same time. They tune into each other. And so Armand had a shock. I said to him yesterday, you know, men have a cycle too. What, man? Yes, I don't want. I said, you call it ovaries with a woman, you call it testicle in men. You think there is any difference with you and them? You still have the same monthly cycle. Because we adapt into it. Yeah? And you find out your monthly cycle becomes the same as your wife. But in America, there is only a few states in America, you can exclude yourself from sitting exams when you don't have the energy like women when they go to their monthly cycle. And you're allowed to not, for example, sit for exams. Because you're not as energetic and you're not as active as the rest of the month. So now you knowledge seekers, as you're learning more and you're becoming more tuned into the, what do you call it, the understanding of the plasma, you start talking and thinking very much in what is about to come. We change drastically. Don't forget, I keep on saying we are online for our 2014 roadmap. And
yeah, I was telling
the huge change.
I was telling the plasma group the other day that I've been listening and talking to you and everybody so long that my language is starting to change to everybody else's, and how I write is even changing.
That is dangerous. But in fact, as we go to space, the condition changes. We have to respond to it. If you understood what I just said a few minutes ago, that you can create you can put it this way: if you live by the ethos of the universe, thou shalt not steal. And at the same time, you take what you need, and you know you can take everything from the fields of the plasma of the reactors. Is there a need for the mouth? The mouth, we change to use it for eating and talking. When I can understand your emotion without you even before thinking you want to rob me or to give me a cuddle, Do I need a mouth to shout or say I love you? If I can explain to you that I can change the taste and the smell by the energy, is there a need for a digestion, a mouth to put things in it to digest it? We change according to the time comes. And don't forget, we are not the first one. It happens millions of times every single human day.
Mr. Kesh, is there a need for humans to travel in space, or is it just a
Oh,
wish?
you stay here, you're quite welcome. You're quite welcome to stay if you want to. Nobody takes you if you don't want to.
Are there
But
are there jobs in space for humans that
yes,
might be useful?
mechanics, yeah, we need mechanics.
Lots of broken down
We need
spaceships
like the
on
only
foreign planets.
the only thing, yeah, dentists. The only thing we don't need is priests and rabbis, because there are no churches and no mosques.
Maybe that's why they're all on Earth then.
I think they will stay because it's the only free pay, as I call it. It comes with accommodation and the pleasures. This is what I had few people here as, and I said this to you before. Americans with all their telescope, and we changed it, and we call, what do you call it, the big one, Hubble telescope. They haven't found a single church and they haven't found a single mosque in their space. So we join the rest in understanding the balance of the use of the energy or gravitational magnetic fields of the universe. We are astonished here in the way of our own stupidity. But if we accept we've been so stupid, then we cannot blame nobody for it except ourselves. Don't forget, Alzheimer's is one of the best cures for the man in space. If you understand what it means. You want to forget the place you left behind. Very true. This is the reality of the existence. You know, at the moment it's become very fashionable. As I explained this to you before, you understood. I think the person and the family I'm talking about most probably listen to this program in the coming days or weeks, because I know she's very active around listening to work around the work of the foundation. It's become fashionable that the children travel to different nations for economical prosperity, and it's so good because the life they lived was not so comfortable, and they become successful. And one of the things of the success is we take our parents with us. They go back to their own nation and they bring the parents. And then after 5 or 10 years, all of them complain about things. I think my dad has got Alzheimer's. I think my mom has got Alzheimer's. Ask yourself one question. What have you done? It's so bad that you uproot them from where they lived, their love, their life was. And the only way to escape from it is to forget it. And then you call it Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's will be the best, is the best cure for man in space.